Hi, I'm Diane Fisher, Director of the Jewish Community Relations Council at the Jewish Federation of Silicon Valley. And I'm very pleased and honored to be introducing Sophie Weinzimmer, who will answer some questions and share some stories about her family's experience during the Holocaust. So welcome, Sophie.
Thank you, Diane, and it's a privilege and an honor to be invited.
So let's start by giving some context and share with us about your parents at the time of the war. Where did they live? And what did they do specifically to survive?
So my parents were both from Poland. My mother was the youngest of 9 children, and she and one of her sisters were the only survivors. My mother was not in a camp, but hid for 4 years. My father and his parents and 3 siblings were captured by the Russians, and they were moved to Siberia, where they were made uniforms for the Russian army. My parents met in Austria after the end of the war in a displaced persons subcamp of Mauthausen called Steyr, and that's where they were married, and that's where I was born, in that DP camp.
So how did your family manage to leave Europe? What was their strategy, and did their plans turn out as they originally made them?
So we were in the camp until almost my 3rd birthday because we had to wait to obtain a sponsor to come to America. Our sponsorship came from a Houston family, but it definitely didn't go as planned. On the train to Bremen, Germany, I developed a high fever and was put in quarantine for 2 weeks. We missed our ship, and then we had to wait another 2 months to be assigned to another ship. On our way to Ellis Island, there was a storm at sea, and we were rerouted to New Orleans. During that time, my parents met a family who were being sponsored by their relatives in Hollywood, California. So instead of moving to Houston, I was raised in the LA area.
Wow. Well, just for this moment, during this pandemic, I'm thinking about all the children that are stuck at home and struggling with the limitations of sheltering in place, and also the unknown resolution of this situation. And of course, this situation is clearly not directly comparable to your childhood, but as Jews, we always want to learn from our parents and learn from our collective past. So I'm wondering if you can provide some advice to all of our kids today who are weathering out these restrictions and this unknown immediate future here today.
Yes, that's an honor for me to do that. I want to speak directly to young people from my heart to your heart. This really challenging time can be your opportunity to work on becoming super resilient. The story of Passover, Yom HaShoah, and really all of Jewish history shows that we already have resilience built into our DNA. We just need to tap into it. My parents and I came to this country not knowing the language, the culture, and they had very limited job skills. They had just survived the horrors of the Holocaust, and they were now in a new survival mode, a new normal. You are now in the midst of your new normal, and this can be the biggest personal growth period in your lifetime. Pandemics, just like wars, have always been with us since the beginning of time. Just know that there is always a beginning, a middle, and an end. Resilience comes when we get more comfortable in the not knowing. If you think about it, all science, medicine, the arts, and even religion start with the unknown. We could just be observers and watch this pandemic unfold just like we're watching weather patterns. We may be in the midst of a global tornado, but it will pass just like the weather. I know that you guys are craving normalcy, fun, and you miss your friends. Thank goodness for the time you were born in. 50 years ago, there was no internet. You can still do so many things that you love. You might ask yourself, what makes me feel young and alive? Maybe dancing, music, video games. Do it every day. What makes my mind feel alive? Maybe board games, puzzles, reading, doing something creative. Do it every day. One way to look at this is that we are not self-sheltering, but we're thriving in a sheltering place, our home. Sometimes I find it helpful and I feel more control if I structure my day. You can ask yourself, how am I going to influence how my day will go? What gifts can I bring to the world today? You can lift people up by telling jokes, sharing stories, and helping out with your siblings. You can be a force for good. Compassion, humor, and patience are contagious. Be kind to your parents who are doing the very best they can at the moment. My mother, beginning at age 14, spent 4 years living in the woods, cemeteries, and in haylofts during the Holocaust. My father lived 4 years of forced labor in Siberia. They suffered a lot, but eventually came out the other end and had a beautiful life in California. It takes courage to rest in the not knowing, moment by moment and with personal awareness and calmness. Maybe try to see this as a global retreat. You can become wise teachers to future generations on how to embrace the full human experience, no matter if it includes pain and suffering. Take the time to find your own special doorway to open and come out the other side of this pandemic. Become the light in the darkness. We, your parents and your grandparents, need and celebrate you in this time of global transformation. The change can start with you.
Thank you so much, Sophie, for your sharing and for your wisdom. Very much appreciated at this time.
Most welcome.